It is time now for Morning Rounds. Joining us are CBS News Chief Medical Correspondent Dr. John LaPook and CBS News contributor Dr. Holly Phillips. First up this week, adolescence and sleep. The country's largest group of pediatricians says many of our kids need to start school later in the morning. John?
Vanita, this new report by the American Academy of Pediatrics points out that middle and high school students who don't get enough sleep can suffer physical and mental problems. Their studies can suffer too.
The new school year in Warrington, Virginia means an early start time for 16-year-old Kaya Olson. Classes here begin at 7:30 a.m.
We all showed up to school on the first day and all complained about how tired we were as soon as we walked in the door.
Only 13% of high school students get the optimal amount of sleep. That's 8.5 to 9.5 hours. The American Academy of Pediatrics believes this contributes to obesity, high blood pressure, and depression. Dr. Judith Owens is the lead author of the policy statement.
Getting less sleep is associated with poorer grades, with lower performance on standardized tests. So across the board, we see a whole host of very negative consequences.
The advisory panel suggests middle and high schools start their day no earlier than 8:30 a.m. It's estimated only 15% of high schools start at 8:30 a.m. or later. 40% start earlier than 8 a.m. We asked Kaya to keep a video diary documenting her struggles to get to sleep and wake up.
It's 6 a.m. and I just woke up after hitting my snooze button 3 times. I'm only going to be able to go to school with 6, maybe 5 hours of sleep, and I'm not ready to learn and take tests and everything because I'm so tired. And then that stresses me out because I want good grades, but I'm tired.
Kaya's mother, Judy, believes changing start times would also change attitudes.
Every morning this week, she said to me, I hate school, I don't want to go to school. I don't think it's school that they hate. I think they hate getting up and getting out the door before 7 o'clock in the morning.
So it's not just fatigue. There's some medical consequences here.
Right. We heard about all the medical consequences in the piece, and it wasn't just obesity and depression, high blood pressure, and not doing well in school, but things like increased infections, not to mention crankiness, which I think we all see. And I think the thinking about sleeping has really changed. It's very interesting. We used to think you just sort of turned off. Maybe you did some dreaming. That did something. But now we're finding out that during sleep we're repairing hormones. So a lot of the hormones that control appetite get reset. And that's why if you don't get enough sleep, you can eat more.
Right.
And in terms of infections, your immune system gets repaired. So there are a lot of things going on in sleep that we don't really totally understand, but that are important.
I have 2 teenagers. Right. The enduring problem at this point in their lives is I can't get them to go to sleep, and then I can't get them to wake up.
Right.
But my question is...
Well, good luck with that.
Thank you very much. My question is, why do they have trouble going to sleep at night?
Lots of things, but one of them that's physiologic is that when you hit puberty, you actually, your circadian rhythm, your biological clock changes, and you naturally go to bed later. Now, in addition to that, you have things like screen use. So we've learned now that the light coming from these electronic devices can inhibit melatonin, which is a hormone made in the brain that helps you go to sleep. Not to mention all the homework. I mean, my kids just had homework that kept them up later than I went to sleep.
Okay, so on behalf of these 2 gentlemen then, Holly, what can parents do to help with that regularity of schedule?
Right. Well, Vanita, even though we know that teens' physiology naturally disrupts their circadian cycles, as John said, keeping a regular sleep-wake cycle, even on weekends, making them go to bed at the same time and wake up at the same time, really helps to reset that. Also, the media curfew is just as important, not only for melatonin, but particularly with social media. When kids put something out there, whether it's on Facebook or Instagram, they're waiting for a response, and then they'll respond to that response, and it turns into kind of an endless cycle where they have trouble turning it off. So turning off all the devices early matters. And the last thing is to set a household curfew. If you can go to sleep at the same time as your teens, that'll help to get them in bed too. If the whole family turns off the lights, it's pretty effective.
Also this week, we sometimes describe anxiety or nerves as having butterflies in the stomach, but breakthrough research finds your belly might be upsetting your brain, and changing the bacteria in our intestines could alter our mood and behavior. These new studies might transform the way we understand and treat a variety of mental health issues. Holly, what is the connection between your brain and your stomach?
Right. Well, Anthony, this is a really fascinating topic, and it all stems from our understanding that our intestine or our gut is basically like our second brain. It has millions of neurons in it, as well as neurotransmitters like serotonin that affect our mood. So we've known for a long time, if you've ever felt anxious or upset, you can feel it in your gut, right? You might have butterflies in your stomach or nausea or even diarrhea. Well, now we're understanding that it's a two-way street. If your gut is upset for some reason, maybe the bacterial balance is wrong or your gut is just going through a difficult period, you'll feel it in your brain, which might create anxiety, depression, or other mood disorders.
Is there a way then to put more good bacteria into our stomach to help our brain?
Well, there is, but I should just say we are at like step one of understanding all this. It's Dr. Michael Gershon, one of my teachers, wrote a book called The Second Brain, and it talks all about this relationship, about the fact that there are trillions of bacteria in the gut, 500 to 1,000 different species. 50 of them alone could kill you, but there's a war of the world going on.
Right.
And so they're in balance. And then when they get out of balance, you can have certain problems. We know obesity, we really think that obesity is related, at least in part, to a mismatch, imbalance in the bacteria, because we know that farmers for years knew that if you want to make a chicken fat, you give them antibiotics. Why is that?
Right.
They were fine. And it turns out that it changes the bacteria and it makes them absorb nutrients more. So this is a fascinating new area. And when you ask the question about what exactly you should give in terms of probiotics, well, it's like saying, well, I'm sick. What antibiotics should I take? Well, just take antibiotics.
Right.
What antibiotics? So we are at the period now is figuring out which probiotics, and there are so many different ones. Stay tuned about which exact ones, and also about this mind-gut relationship.
Holly, what damages bacteria in your intestines and what basically causes this imbalance?
Right, well, I think there are a number of things. John, of course, you mentioned antibiotics. So particularly taking medicines like antibiotics or even antacids and anti-inflammatories can do it. Another thing that's been blamed is sort of the traditional Western diet that has a lot of red meat, processed food, artificial flavoring and coloring. That's also possibly one of the causes of the imbalance. On the flip side, though, healthy foods like fruits, vegetables, whole grains are referred to as prebiotics because they actually help the good bacteria in our gut flourish and stay healthy. So that's another thing you can do. It's not necessarily all about taking pills, it's about how we eat.
Really interesting stuff. Well, new research out this week reveals that stimulating certain areas of the brain with electrical current could improve your memory. This non-invasive stimulation enhanced memory in healthy adults. Researchers say it has the potential to help patients with stroke damage, traumatic brain injury, and early-stage Alzheimer's disease. Well, finally this week, a giant panda that might be smarter than your average bear. China's Chengdu Giant Panda Breeding Research Center says this panda may have faked pregnancy to receive more food and better treatment. In July, 6-year-old Ai Heen showed signs of pregnancy with a change in appetite and less movement. Endangered giant pandas are often reluctant to breed in captivity, so pseudo-pregnancies are actually quite common.
I mean, you got to do what you got to do. If they're going to turn up the air conditioner and give you more bamboo.
I just hope she didn't do it to keep a man. That would have been the wrong thing to do. Dr. John LaPook, Dr. Holly Phillips, thank you both.